What is going on, everybody? This is Sergey from MMA Soap Opera. So this is a video part 2 where we look at MMA, try to break it down and simplify it for people that are very new to the sport, maybe just heard about MMA on social media or maybe from their friends, and are curious about what exactly it is. We're trying to explain the appeal of the sport, and we're also trying to answer as many of the questions that a person like this might have. In the first video, we tackled the blood and the gore of the sport, and we explained who an MMA fighter actually is, what does he do, as well as what is the actual appeal of the sport, what is so interesting about it. So if you're curious about those things, make sure to click this link, but I will also put the link in the description of the video. Today I want to add to those things as well as conclude the topic. You will learn, for example, about the importance of the storylines of this sport, what do other MMA fans say about this sport, and what is the connection between MMA and soap operas. Alright, so why are storylines so important? What do we mean by that? Let's have a look at it. So, let's imagine two fighters. These two fighters, they train together in the same MMA gym. They are in the same team. They even live together. They share the same room. They sleep on each other's couches. They go to each other's fights. They support each other whenever they can. They talk about one another in interviews or to other people. Best friends. Brothers. Now one of the two fighters gets some success and maybe wins some championship. And now all of a sudden he starts feeling like this friend of his is becoming a little bit jealous of him. So he tries to talk to him, and all of a sudden they start arguing. Different conflicts start arising. And now all of a sudden these conflicts become so personal, so poisonous, and they make the friendship turn into absolute hatred. Now these two fighters all of a sudden are in the same MMA organization, same weight class, no longer friends, hate each other's guts, and guess what happens? They get booked to compete against each other, to fight each other. Now this MMA organization starts to create promotional material covering the history of these two fighters, of course focusing on the relationship that they used to have and on the conflict that they have right now. They basically pit them against each other. They start putting them on the same stages during the same press conferences, and they basically give them microphones and give them opportunity to talk to each other. Well, guess how those conversations might look like considering the history. So the build up to this fight is crazy, super intense. But now it's the evening when they are supposed to fight each other. They're coming to the octagon, they looked at each other, and you can see how intense the atmosphere gets. The atmosphere is so dense that you can cut it with a knife, and all of a sudden the ring bells and they go at it. So what I just told you is an actual real story of real two MMA fighters. Two very famous MMA fighters, Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington. We as MMA fans basically get to see this whole story unveil. And once you follow the story, seeing those two athletes compete against each other in the octagon makes it that much more exciting. This is why my channel is called MMA Soap Opera, because MMA actually has all the characteristics of soap opera. The drama that is happening in the background is insane at times. And a lot of those fighters are sometimes behaving like absolute drama queens as well.
Hey Pussy, are you still there? I'm here.
But I want to say, apart from these kinds of grudge matches, MMA world is also full of other kinds of stories. Stories of fighters who have massive respect and admiration for each other. They sometimes hug each other in the middle of the fight. They hold each other's hands at the end of the fight regardless of who wins. And they speak highly of each other in the interviews. In MMA, you have it all. So in other words, when you're watching an MMA fight, you are not only watching a competition between a fighter versus fighter. You are also often watching a competition of one martial art style against a different martial art style, as well as a personality versus a personality. This fight that you are watching may conclude a story or start a completely new one. That is MMA. So, what do other MMA fans say about this sport? I was really curious to know, so I asked a couple of my friends, and I want to actually read you a couple of their responses. So I asked 3 friends. Let's have a look at it. So my friend Pavel is saying, for me, it's not just about the fights, but it's also about the journey of the fighter. For example, I became a big fan of Jiří Procházka when he fought in Japan. I fell in love with his unorthodox style, his very unique personality, and I watched him evolve, become better, and eventually make it to UFC. It's not about mindless beating each other's asses. is the journey and the growth that you can see when you watch the fighter compete a few times a year. I really love this. This was so good. Then I asked my brother Eric. Eric is saying, it's all about the stories. Martial arts can give fighter a possibility of redemption. It's touching to see a person who, for example, used to be an alcoholic or a drug addict, but you can see how MMA saved their life. MMA requires determination, hard work, and discipline. When you are joining an MMA gym, that is what is expected from you. And you can see these people in the octagon who might be changed people. It's a big motivation and inspiration. 100% agree. 100% agree with that. Then the last friend, Marcus is saying, I like that MMA is very unpredictable. Even if on the paper one fighter is way above his opponent, he can still lose. Anything can happen, but also, I've been following the sport since 2010, and just how much the sport evolved and grew in the past few years is incredible and exciting to follow. I really love these three insights. Guys are completely right. I want to add that MMA is a sport with fighters with all kinds of backgrounds. Some of them come from absolutely nothing. Others were maybe rich from the get-go. Some have no education whatsoever. Others are maybe doctors, lawyers, highly educated people. Like truly, the spectrum of MMA fighters is crazy. What is great about UFC, the specific MMA promotion that I'm covering, is that they have a very talented team who focuses on like the storytelling of each fighter. Before every event, which is basically almost every week, you get to see these basically short documentaries about these fighters and their journey, and you just basically can't help but be invested. Maybe you start rooting for this one particular fighter who has maybe like a touching story and maybe crazy background. Or maybe you start rooting against this one fighter who's an cocky, arrogant asshole. And believe me, there's so many fighters like this.
Next question.
Assalamu alaikum, Ayada. Jeffrey Hiffers. Khabib, your last fight you had...
But that's what I mean when I say that the storytelling is a very big part of MMA. So I would highly encourage you to try to check it out. It's literally just a matter of going on Google and typing in when is the next UFC fight. You'll find the schedule of the upcoming fights, you will see where exactly you can watch those fights, and then on YouTube before every event, UFC is putting out these long videos called the Countdown, and those are like the short documentaries that I talked about, the documentaries that are talking about the background of the fighters, their stories and stuff like that. Also, if you are worried that when you're gonna eventually watch an MMA fight and you have no clue what you're looking at, every MMA fight has a commentary who guides you through the fight as the fight goes. And of course, the more you watch, the more you learn about it and the more you start understanding the game. But those commentaries are very helpful. Okay guys, that would be it for the second part of the series. Once again, if you haven't watched the first part, you can find the link in the description section. But also, if you have any additional questions or maybe you're wondering something, let me know in the comment section down below. I'm gonna do my best to answer all of it. Also, here on MMA Soap Opera, we are discussing all the upcoming fights. We're talking about the drama. So if you want to get a little bit more into MMA, consider hitting subscribe and ring the bell so that you don't miss any upcoming videos, because that's exactly what we're covering here. If you like this video, make sure to hit like, but also if you have any friends who are, let's say, a little confused about MMA or are wondering what it is, the easiest way to help them is of course to share this video as well as the first part. Thank you very much for watching this video. Have a great day. This was Sergey from MMA Soap Opera, because that's what it is.